More on this, I'm joined now by Joe Siracusa. He's an author and professor of security and diplomacy at Curtin University in Melbourne. Prof, welcome to the show. U.S. diplomats, as we heard there from Denis, are returning to Ukraine this week. What does this tell us about how Washington is seeing this war going?
Well, good morning. Sending your diplomatic team back to Kiev to reestablish the embassy, maybe to put in some attachés, is a very good sign. It's a signal to Vladimir Putin that the United States is not going to step back from its friend Ukraine. And of course, the Ukrainians aren't so much worried about diplomacy. They want heavy weapons. They want more sanctions, and they want economic aid because someone's going to have to rebuild the parts of the country that they're allowed to keep after the ceasefire. So I think Zelenskyy has become quite a political operator in the best sense of the word. You have the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of State, number 4 and 5 in succession to the presidency, sneaking across the world in unmarked cargo planes. And you got the president of Ukraine announcing that they're on their way to Kiev. That's not very... It's not very coordinated, but it shows you who has the upper hand. Now, why Washington thought they had to send both of them at once is a little baffling to me. You don't have to really do that. In the worst years of the Vietnam War, I don't remember too many secretaries of defense going to Vietnam or Afghanistan or other places, particularly if it was announced. But I think also the United States is testing Russia a little bit. Russia's made it very clear that there's a red line here, and that is the kinds of weapons that will be allowed to go to Ukraine, such as drones or maybe weapon systems we haven't even heard. And so the U.S. is sort of creeping up to the red line and testing Putin when he says, there are certain things that will cross the red line that we will not tolerate. And he's made it very clear he's at war with the United States and the West over the economic sanctions. And he's made it very clear that if these weapons actually are transported from a base, say planes flown out of Warsaw, that he'd regard this an act of war. So this is very dangerous, and it's very risky on the part of the administration to have done this because they didn't have to. They could have done this 100 other ways. So they're kind of laying their cards on the table, and they say, "We're here. We're going to give you more equipment." What kind exactly? They want tanks and helicopters, air defense systems, and artillery and howitzers and the like. But I don't know how much they're going to get. But the Ukrainians want the U.S. to put pressure on the nations of Eastern and Central Europe to release their Soviet-age missile systems or weapons to release to them because these are the ones they know. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of game playing going on here, and it's terribly interesting from a diplomatic standpoint.
How do you think Vladimir Putin is looking at all of this? I mean, the U.S. has given an overall figure of $730 million in military financing, not just to Ukraine, but as well as 15 allied or partner countries.
Well, there's probably a lot more money going on here and release and things like that. These figures are just rough figures. They never tell you how much is going on. It could be even far more than that. I would think that Putin is looking at this very carefully. And of course, if you bring in an air defense system that allows the Ukrainians to shoot down a Russian jet, or you bring in artillery that allows them to kill Russian soldiers, I mean, what is Putin supposed to think about this? Whether you use a gun or you hand the gun to the guy next to you to use it, I don't think there's much difference in his mind. And when the time comes, he will roll out this litany of complaints about the United States. But as I say, the United States is taking a bit of a gamble here. Didn't have to because it was doing a pretty good job. But Zelenskyy knows that he's up against it. Look, he's not going to win the war. He might create a stalemate, which would be okay for the ceasefire. Mm-hmm. But this idea I see on the morning news in America that, he may still win, well, that's an illusion because not one penny has NATO given Ukraine that has saved one life so far. I mean, there are thousands and thousands of people have died. And if you look at these cities, Mariupol and the rest of it, they're destroyed. So you got a desert, at the end of this thing. So, Ukraine's not going to be a winner here, but it may be able to hold off Russia until there is a peace treaty.
Joe Siracusa, always appreciate your analysis live to us there from Melbourne.
Thank you.